Hi everyone, how are we doing? I'm so glad that there's a lot of people, but you know me, I need to get to know you. How many of you are product managers actually? Can you raise your hand? Okay, we have a few. Aspiring product managers maybe? Someone who want to, okay, we got 1, 2, 3. You decided like in 1 second, nice. And do we have startup founders here maybe? Not too bad. Okay. I don't know who are the rest of the people that did not raise their hand, but thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for this awesome event. And thank you, by the way, Mary, that allowed me to have this session with you for 1 hour. I'm just kidding. It will be 30 minutes. Today, I'll be talking about building products for the enterprise. You today found out a lot of information, what it means to build products for end users, how to do A/B tests, how to do roadmaps. But imagine you have to do this for large corporations. And that's a totally different story in terms of product management. Before I will start my talk, I want to tell you that everything I will tell today is my own opinion, and you should not consider this as an opinion of the organization that I might be affiliated with. And I will be actually focusing on product management, not inside an enterprise, though there might be some relevancies and overlap, but more about if you have a startup or a small company and you want to build a really, really powerful product and to sell it to Google or Amazon or someone else. These are some of the goals that I set for ourselves. I'll just give you an overall understanding, like what's the difference between B2C and enterprise. So when you have questions how to do an A/B test, then you need to know that there should be a statistical significance to that, but you have 5 enterprise users, you cannot get that statistical significance. Then we'll talk about the personas, right, because you're building it for someone. And we'll see what are the characteristics of your product, right? How you should be building it and how you should navigate the sales. Because the sales in enterprise is probably the most important thing. This is the agenda that I got for you today. We actually will discuss what an enterprise is and what are the main differences. And then we'll go through the topics that I just mentioned. And we'll start with me. My name is Alexei Ciobanu. I'm originally from Republic of Moldova. Some of you might have guessed it based on my last name and my flawless accent. But what's important is that I've been a product manager for more than a decade. Actually, for the last 6 years, I've been doing specifically enterprise product management. And I got into enterprise product management, and prior to that, I had been doing a lot of B2C, a lot of A/B testing, a lot of road mapping. And when I started to work with enterprises, I realized that whatever I was doing is not working. I literally need to learn new skills to do new things. So today I work at Wisecube. Wisecube is a semantic data platform that takes a lot of data and contextualizes it. And specifically right now, we have launched the biggest knowledge base in biomedical space. So if there is someone from healthcare or biomedical, we should talk after this session. By the way, this slide is 100% true. So now let's just get on the same page and agree with like what is an enterprise. An enterprise is just literally a huge organization. It has like thousands of people, a lot of money. It's very complexly organized, and it has a lot of rules that it has to follow. So this is important because this is what makes an enterprise behave like an enterprise. And we as product managers need to adjust to this huge persona, and whatever we're doing should be adjusted to this behavior. Okay, so why are we actually talking about enterprises today? Obviously, first of all, because this is what I have been doing for 6 years, right? And I picked this topic. And secondly is because you as product managers, you might choose the aspiring ones to go and choose the product management for enterprise road, right? Others who are doing B2C and want like to join big corporations or build products for enterprises, you need to learn how to navigate this. You need to understand what you as a product manager has to deal with. And this is basically what we're trying to do. I will try to do today to explain you. And there is another very important reason For the last 2-3 years, enterprise startups became more important for investors because of a few reasons. First of all, when you deal with an enterprise, you work on contract base, you have more predictable revenue, you have higher revenue from this customer. That's one reason. And as you can see, for the last 2 years, the total VC funding has decreased for B2Cs. And for those who want to build startups, you probably should focus on enterprise market more because there is a lot of money, there's a lot of interest there. And besides that, there is a lot of consumption of enterprise software market because of like cloud computing, because of AI trends. And it's predicted that there will be a lot of investments in that domain. So obviously we want to work and like link our jobs to a space where there's a lot of money, right? What does it mean for us, for product managers? It's just literally more work. There will be more work. We will need to build more products. We'll need to build more solutions. And it means that they will need more people like us, right? They will literally need people who understand what is a product management in enterprise, how to deal with it, how to build that solution. And I hope that today will spark your interest, and maybe some of you will choose this path as well. Now we will get to the first introduction to enterprise product management and how it's different from B2C, right? And first of all, you might think that you do the same thing. You do road mapping, you build features. That's true. That's true. You indeed, tactically, daily, you do the same. But there are a lot of things that differ. And all of them are literally different. How you measure the success, how you do your testing, how you talk to your customers, how you actually sell to those customers. Don't look at this big table as something that we'll be talking today. Obviously, each of these lines requires like hours for us to get together. So I picked 3 that I think are the most important to know and to be aware and to understand that this will impact how you do product management. And those 3 are understanding the enterprise persona. That's probably one of the most important things. Second is to understand how enterprise cycle works, especially if you're in a startup and doing product management, or even if you're in a different work. Whatever happens in enterprise sales will influence the way you build your product, the way you plan your roadmap. And third of all is literally the characteristics of the product that you need to build. You cannot sell to enterprise a website, right? Like that won't work. The website technologies are for someone else. Enterprises need really, really complex solutions. With that, let's dive into enterprise personas. Actually, how many of you know what a persona is? I would expect that whoever is a product manager should raise their hand. Aspiring product manager should have known, but that's fine. And psychologist as well, right? So then for those who don't know what a persona is basically the person that we try to build and tailor our solution for. And before we even build some features, right, we need to figure out what's the problem with that persona, to describe that persona. And in B2C, in more classical product management, looks something like this, right? We have a profile of someone, we have some demographics about that person, some behavioral description, and then we learn about their pain and we try to build our solution to solve their pain and to be aligned with the goal of this persona. And that's fine, right? Like that's basically the default product management practice. When you think about enterprises, and we already know what an enterprise is, like thousands of people, multiple departments, you're solving and building a product, solving a problem for a business. You look at the problem through the perspective of the business. It's not just calling a taxi, right? We're not talking about that kind of level. You're solving a problem for an individual. You want to for that individual to do something very simple. You're trying to solve a very, very big problem. As this use case is like literally the enterprise is trying to expand their market. They want to be able to manage very complex technologies. And you are the one who need to build a solution, hopefully, that will help this to do this, right? And that's important to know. Obviously, at enterprise, you have end users, like the people that will use your software, right? They will click, they will probably tell you that the design is not the most beautiful. But also in enterprise, we have another person. And usually it's someone that pays for your product, right? Because the user is not paying most of the cases. So that persona is the buyer. And they have, besides the buyer actually, you have another one, is the influencer. And I'll give you an example how these personas behave in an enterprise setting and what does it mean for a product manager. Thankfully, if you get to engage with one of these organizations, then there will be a champion. Champion is literally the person that wants to buy your product and is basically saying yes, vouching for your product and saying that your product is something that the organization needs to buy. But that's not enough because there are users, buyers, influencers, and all of them, they have their own goals, right? If we talk about a marketing department, the user probably might want to be able to do marketing campaigns, right? And they need a tool that is like easy to use, efficient. But the buyer is a C-level, maybe chief financial officer, and they don't want to. They need to optimize the costs. So their goal is to optimize the cost, right? And they don't want to spend those money. Then there is an influencer. Probably it's an IT guy, most of the cases, especially in enterprises, that they have their own objections. They will need to manage your solution. They will need to plan their resources. And in order to actually satisfy all of them, that's your goal. You need to make sure that whatever you're building and the way you talk to them aligns with all of their goals. And this is probably one of the most challenging things, especially for startups. I know that Andrei today talked about product market fit. If you don't know about this, then forget about product market fit in enterprises. So what do we know so far is that the most important thing for a product manager is to identify all of those, because everything that you'll be building and engaging and interacting and showing them should be tailored to each of these personas. Literally the way you even do pitches. If you know that you're seeing the C-level, then you're highlighting that you'll reduce costs. If you're having a meeting or a demo with the marketing team, then you're showing how cool design you have and like how many functionalities and so on. If you have a meeting with the IT guy, then you show, look, you don't need to do anything, we don't need your resources, we have a ton of security and so on. That's literally what I just mentioned. So this is probably the first thing that you need to know. There are different personas. Whatever you do in product management should be driven by these people. I showed just 4, but in some complex enterprises, you might have like 5 influencers, the data science team, the IT team, the database team, and all of them will have a say, and most of the cases, they'll have their own requirements. Now, the second important thing is the enterprise sales cycle. Like usually in B2C, right, you pay for your app, or you go to the website, you buy something. In enterprise, it's not like this. Why it is important for product managers? Product managers need to align their roadmap to the sales cycle. So imagine you engage with a bank. Let's say it's the biggest bank in Europe. You want that bank to buy your solution. That bank obviously won't buy it today because big corporations have budgets. They plan those budgets for years ahead. So your goal is somehow to get on their budget next cycle. That also means that whatever features you want to do next year should be aligned with this customer. So I like to say that sales cycle in enterprises is a marathon. It's like a long run. You need to start engaging with the customer from the first call. You need to tailor your message. Then you're doing demo to the marketing. Then you have another demo for IT. Then you have another demo for CEO and so on. So it's like a long journey. It actually could be like years until they might buy your product. In enterprise, it's very difficult. The decisions are being made. It's very complex. Already we know that there are a lot of personas, and each of those personas will have their say, right? And there actually might be someone else that you don't even know about your product that will have a say. And you need to know how to navigate this as a product manager because, again, In big companies, some of these are done by sales team, right? You might probably have a dedicated sales team. But even if you have a dedicated sales team and your product is an open banking product, sales team very unlikely will understand all the technicalities. So when sales team go into the field and they start to sell, they need to know how to put the features together, how to sell this value proposition. So even in big organization, you'll have to help sales to do all of this. And that will obviously influence your roadmap. When by high stakes and budget, it means that you need to understand that if you lose one of these customers, or if you get one of these customers, it might change your company entirely, right? Because we're not talking about $10 per month. We're talking, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions, right? So if you get one of these, and psychologically, because we have psychologists here, right? Like you're in a company that knows that they could win a seven-figure deal, you change your behavior, right? Like you want to win this. And it will influence the way you behave and the way you plan the roadmap, so be aware of this. This is literally how might look an engagement. And a lot of these things that you see are new words for you, but all of those will require product management to get involved in some fashion. So navigating enterprise is like running a marathon in a multi-level maze. It's indeed like this. And be prepared that there is a long run. It's not 2 months, not 3 months. It's at least 4 months and more. And the last one that we have is about product complexity. Probably this one is the most simple because we know that complexity of, we've built products, like we've used products and we understand. But enterprises have a different bar. They don't look at shiny designs. That's why most of the enterprise products are actually very ugly, if you've noticed, right? Because they don't care most likely about the end user. They care how that specific product changes their goal, right? How it influences the goal that they have, the expansion or cost reduction or return on investment. Regardless of that, there are some specifics when you build a product for the enterprise. As I mentioned earlier, it's not enough just to have a website, right, or just to have a table. You literally, when you're approaching an enterprise and you have identified the personas, you know their problem, and you know that there will be someone that needs to give money for this, you need to come very prepared with a set of features that will probably highlight you from the crowd, right? So let's take them one by one. And by deep feature set, I mean that because we have different personas, and let's take a simple example with that marketing automation persona, right? Like, do you have the marketing campaign manager? Then you have the marketing department manager. Marketing department manager needs a set of features, right? Marketing manager needs another set of features, and maybe you'll have another set of features for the C-level just to see the performance of the department. So you cannot go there with just like an email automation tool just because it's not what they need and you don't satisfy their needs. Also, because of a lot of regulation, compliance, and you have different levels, so different departments, you'll need to have a more granular access to your tool. So all of this customization and settings is a must. At least you need to build your front end and back end, so it's a little bit future-proof, it's scalable, it's customizable, and the way you present. For instance, at UserMind, when we were trying to sell to banks and healthcare, we literally, for each meeting, we would have a set of features for each persona and say that this set of features, the integration, the automation are for you, and we will solve this problem. When we were engaging with someone else, it would be something else. And you can configure this. You can have different departments using it without without making sure that you're allowing people from different departments to get access to the data. We have the multi-system integration, but it sounds overloaded. But what I want to sell is that you need to build your product and to plan your product that it actually can connect to an enterprise. We already know that an enterprise is a very complicated organization. And if you need to connect to their data, right, you will need to connect to their systems. And their system, because of this, companies are most of the cases, they are not too modern. They have some legacy system that you will need to connect. You'll need to connect to financial system, for instance, regardless of the example of, disregard the example of marketing, but let's say you need to connect to their CRM, you need to connect to their marketing automation, you need to connect to their IT team. So all of this is actually mandatory. You won't be able even to get into their data if you don't build this functionality. And it's important for a product manager because if you start looking from these lenses, you understand that your product actually should be API first. Maybe your feature need to be better on APIs than on front end, and so on. Cross-platform interoperability and plug and play is sort of, again, it's overloaded, but means that your solution is very flexible, modular. You can plug and play with it. That's one of the most important. I think I've noticed that in Moldova there are a lot of events talking about fintech, right? And I hope that some of you already know that there is a huge demand for compliance and regulation. And regulation, depending on the country, you need a different set of features, the way you store data, the way you process the data, the way you move the data. All of those are features. Everything of those are features. You need to build some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them you'll build. The enterprise won't even talk to you if you don't have security, compliance. And again, why it is important for a product manager? Because you need to know these things. You need to know how to prioritize these things. You need to understand that this is important for the customer that you're building. You need to understand how these things work, right? And for founders that want to build products for the enterprise as well, if you don't have some of these standards, don't even go to enterprises. They'll definitely won't be working with you, especially if they deal with sensitive data like patient data or financial data. So that's important to take into consideration. And the fourth one that I sort of mentioned and hinted is the roadmap. So the way we build roadmap, and I'm glad that today Andrei mentioned about different types of how you can approach road mapping. In enterprise, it's better to use a goal-oriented or a milestone or like objective-oriented road mapping. It means that you're not just building a list of features, right? You're building a solution for their problem or a solution for a specific goal. The goal could be to win the customer, right? Or to renew the customer, or to increase or decrease their cost for marketing campaigns, or as an example. So your roadmap should be aligned with that goal. And besides that, it should incorporate also satisfying all the personas. So it's not that easy, it's very difficult. There are different topics how actually to navigate this and how to do a stakeholder mapping, but that's for another day. Another thing that is important, right, for enterprises is that you need to align with industry trends, because today we have a trend of open banking. For instance, in Moldova, I've noticed in Eastern Europe and in US, I've lived in US for 6 years, so like it's probably, we take it for granted, we have access to all of this. But if you don't align, you don't build an open platform, right? An API-ready platform. You don't use the scalability techniques. You don't use a lot of things that actually will make your product stand out. You use all technologies, then you literally won't be able to win any deals. Because sometimes in some enterprise sales, they actually will buy you just because you have an API, right? There are a ton of stories like this. So as a product manager, actually, you have to be, we will talk in the next slide about this, that as a product manager, you need to be a little bit more technical. And understanding the integration capabilities and long-term goals is very important when you're building your product. It actually, if you think about this, of all the things that we've talked about, it changes the way you plan your product. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you approach literally every call of your customer. And in comparison to B2C, in B2C you have an email campaign, you just ask them, what do you think about, or like rate my product from 1 to 5. In enterprises, you're not doing that. You have a lot of a lot of long calls, a lot of discussion, a lot of negotiations. So what does it mean actually for a product manager? It means that you have to be like, whatever you're learning today as a novice product manager is pretty good. It will set the foundation. If you want to shift it towards enterprise, you need to be a little bit more technical. You need to be a little bit more technical communication, and like on the cloud on the right side is the words that you don't know. You probably know some of these words like segmentation, drip campaign, SMS notification. If you go to enterprise, you'll have to know words like POC, RFP, microservice, PII, QBR. So just be aware. We have 4 takeaways from this presentation. One of them is just understand that enterprise product managers like different. Even if you're a startup, even if you're in an enterprise and you work as a product manager, it also will be different, especially if you're building this for another customer. The most important thing is probably to know your persona, because you need to navigate that company. You need to understand what are the most important things for those people. So know your personas. Sales is important. Sales will dictate actually how you build your roadmap, what are the features you're building. And it's a long, long, long run that you need to be prepared, especially in startups. In startups, you need to plan your funding, you need to plan your budget. If you're not aware about this, that a sale, actually you might not get any money until like next year, that's bad. You need to be aware of this. And the complexity of the product, you need to build an MVP that is pretty technical, that is like future-proof, that has a lot of settings. Otherwise, you will not stand out from the crowd. So I hope that these 4 takeaways are you at least got the gist of the information that I wanted to give you. And I hope that at least I sparked some of the interest to try and go into enterprises, especially with a ton of funding being poured into enterprise. So as whoever chooses to actually choose this path to enterprise product manager, good luck. And I'll be here for more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexei. Do we have questions? Please raise your hand.
I see a hand there. The aspiring product manager. I remember you.
Thank you. So as an aspiring product manager, the question is, what is the set of skills that a person like me should concentrate on if they want to get into enterprise product management?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had a slide on this, but one thing that you need to be ready, I mean, obviously the base, first of all, the base of product management practice, whatever you guys heard today, you need to know, right? That's a default. If you want to get into enterprises, the most important is to understand the enterprise market. For any product manager, for that reason, like product manager job is pretty versatile. It depending on the company stage, the market, the customer, you will have a different set of responsibilities. But the basic skills remain the same. If you want to specialize in enterprises, then you need to be a little bit more technical. You need to understand how to navigate enterprises, how to massage all of the messaging to personas. So I would narrow it down to make sure that you understand what technicalities imply complex products. That's one thing. Second, you need to learn what an enterprise is and how actually they work. And literally the things that I just mentioned, and it's just like the tip of the iceberg, but if you dive a little bit more into this, then you actually will be ready for enterprises. And I'm a product manager, but I never got into product management through university. So a rule, that's not even a rule, that's like belief that I have. You cannot become a product manager through university. You like need to become it through practice. So that's why we have so many events for like startups. I got through startups by managing startups, and then I learned that whatever I was doing is actually product management. So the best advice that I can give to you is engage in projects and projects or companies that you can express your product management, you can practice. I don't know how many companies are in Moldova that actually do genuine product management, because when I was here 7 years ago, no one actually knew what product management is. I know a few. I know that Simples has a good course on onboarding product managers. They give you some of the flexibility of learning and becoming a product manager. In general, if pick companies that have their own product. If they don't have their own product, then most likely they don't do the classical product management. Any other questions? You can ask questions not necessarily about enterprise. That guy was first.
Hi, Alexei. Thank you for the presentation. As a startup founder, I wanted to ask you, you talked a lot about on how to make sales to enterprises. But what's your take on how to build products for enterprises? Because you need to do a lot of customer discovery to get to understand them. And they have very limited time, and they can do that during their work time most of the times. And afterwards, they want to just forget about the enterprise stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The question is, I mean, you heard, but that's a very good and challenging question. Indeed, there is no right way to build startup except doing interviews and like customer discovery. There might be limited data, right? And usually we need to use data to make some decisions. In enterprise is very difficult. And what I was asked, like approaching an enterprise, whoever from an enterprise, just to email them, to get through LinkedIn is very difficult. They're busy people, right? So it's very challenging, but you have to do it. You have to do at least to try. You have to have, at least for UserMind, when we were building the UserMind platform, we had, I think, at least 100 interviews with enterprise personas. That actually gave us a direction. So even like the secondary problem, even if you do your initial interviews and you know some sort of MVP, that doesn't mean that it's actually what it needs to be. We've heard about product market fit. In enterprise, it becomes even more difficult because you need to have a go-to-market fit, right? There are multiple layers of fitting that you need to do before you get to product market fit. So to summarize, there is no other way. You need to grind and to find those people that will give you information, and based on that information, you'll basically start your MVP, and then you'll launch it, and then you'll start gathering more information. Without that, there is no right way to do it. That's fine. We have an hour, so don't worry.
Okay, thank you, Alexei, for the presentation. Let's imagine the situation that you already are working on a solution for a big company. You managed to convince them to do this integration and so on. And it's time for the next client. And the next client, in fact, has something similar, but they do things differently. And you need to decide for yourself. You make a copy of your solution and you adapt to the second client and then the third client, or you choose what's common between them and you maintain only one product and you in fact tailor your clients to your solution.
This is an excellent question. I've been in this situation not once. Basically, the question is the way I understood it. You have different type of customers, and those customers want different things, and they actually. And you need to decide, and the enterprise customer might shape your product, because you might have, to give you an example, you might have 10 customers, right? 10. 9 of them bring you only 10% of the revenue. 1 of them brings you 90%. And whatever that customer wants, you'll probably need to do. Again, not as a rule, it depends on the situation. The most important, in my experience, the most important is to establish proper communication. So The way I do it, and I was doing it at DocuSign, at UserMind, I was establishing a way of communication with those customers. I would explain them that we have processes as well, right? We have development cycles, we have the roadmap, so they know that they cannot come and just ask for something that they can change right away. They need to be aware that you're also an organization. That is the most important. You explain through communication, proper communication, that you have some processes. That way you a little bit start to manage their expectation and objections. When you get another, let me give everyone an example. Let's say you have an integration platform, and one of the customer is a hospital, and the other is Nike. Like, you are an integration platform, but the customer is very different. One of them is trying to make you healthy, and the other one is trying to sell shoes, right? And they will have different expectations and ask. One of them will want segmentation features, the other one will want PII, the way you store the data about patients. It's very difficult. It will shape your product in a monster at the end, right? It will be having different features, not focused on everyone. There is no hard answer to this question. It depends on what's the vision. Do you want, and do you as a founder agree that your startup will not be a marketing automation platform but an integration platform? That's a very, very good question that the CEO or the founder need to ask. What state financially you are? Do you need that customer or not? Another approach, the third approach, that how I would look at this problem is I would try to understand exactly if the second customer needed that feature or not. Sometimes customers come to you and they ask for features, assuming that this is the solution for their problem, but that's not true. Actually, they need something else, but they assume that this will be a solution. So understanding the problem, specific problem of a customer is very, very important. To summarize, manage the expectations of your all customers or all prospects. From the first engagement, you need to tell them that we have a process. This is how we're doing things. If you come to us, this is our roadmap. So in your case, I would have shown the roadmap and say, like, this is for next half a year. If you need something, you either need to pay or like that's how it's happening. Third, explain what your product is, right? We're doing a marketing automation platform. We're not doing, I don't know, fraud detection, right? So in a nutshell, there are a lot of techniques that you could do, but we can summarize this to a communication.
I would have a second question.
Let's do it. We have 1 hour.
Okay, for example, you start already to build a product and you see a potential customer or a range of customers. You start already building and using their terminology. You get into their business somehow and you tailor your product there. But might be the idea, maybe we can use also other markets or other customers, and maybe you see this from the beginning. What would be your advice? To build an abstract, generic thing that would fit everything, or you should choose one, try one, and only after that maybe scale this to something else?
That's another very good question. And as a product manager, I would suggest, I have already built an agnostic integration platform that like literally would ingest any type of data. What I've learned is better to specialize, better to be the best to solve one problem than to be a Swiss Army knife, right? Like that knife that has a lot of things, then none of those are actually good things, right? So my inclination, especially for post-product market fit, obviously you need to specialize. Before product market fit, if you have enough resources to span 2 different apps, you can, but it's a lot of resources, a lot of marketing resources. You need to lose engineering resources. You need to maintain basically 2 different projects and 2 different startups. These are literally 2 different startups. So you need to ask yourself, if you have a lot of money and don't know what to do, then you could do this. But you will lose resources, you'll lose focus. You lose many things that will make you able to build one good product that solves a real problem.